What's going on, everyone? Juicebags here, and welcome back to the channel. As expected, we got the full reveal of the newest character coming to Dungeon Defenders Awakened in Episode 1. This is the second character, of course. The reimagined Dryad, or Warden, is the first, and this one is an all-new character to the Dungeon Defenders franchise, and that is the Rogue. Now, the art on the Rogue looks super cool. I'm really anxious to see what it looks like in-game, but let's dive in and go through a breakdown of what the Rogue is all about. Now, as many of you all guessed it, the Rogue is a DPS character only, so no building here. I personally was hoping for another hero with more defenses so we could diversify and vary up our builds a little bit. However, we've got a DPS only, our first DPS only character in Dungeon Defenders Awakened, and this will be a dual wielding character. You'll have a sword in the main hand and a crossbow in the alt hand. Now, with that in mind, the primary attack will be a melee attack with the sword. The secondary attack will be a ranged attack with the crossbow. Of course, we won't be able to take a deep dive into the character until we actually get our hands on it to see exactly how scaling works between these various weapons. However, the primary attack will be melee, your secondary attack or your right click on PC will be the ranged attack. Now, the ability number one is the Swift Assault. Now, as with the Warden, there is a kind of a stance mechanic with the Rogue. As we can expect with a Rogue, there is a stealth ability, and the stealth abilities will do different things to your various abilities while your stealth stance is engaged. Starting off with Ability 1, Swift Assault. It's a dash forward and deals AoE damage once reaching its destination. Now, if you're in stealth mode, this Ability 1 is going to throw a single deadly knife at an enemy, dealing massive single target damage. The second ability is going to be Disengage. Disengage throws a spread of daggers forward, dealing AoE damage and applying a Rogue's Mark to all enemies hit during attack. The Rogue leaps backward out of the danger, providing a gap between him and his foes. So this is going to be how you can get yourself away from the baddies if you get a little too close for comfort. Now, if you're stealthed, this second ability is going to be a Dagger Throw. It's going to throw the daggers, deal more damage, and pin enemies to the ground, immobilizing them for a short period. So a little bit of crowd control in the mix if you're stealthed using your ability 2. Now, in place of defenses, the Rogue is going to have devices, which are going to be specific Rogue abilities that are added onto the kit. These devices will allow you to do different things depending on what you're looking for that situation. So the Rogue has been specially trained for direct combat, a fighter some may say, and brings a preference for battling enemies with some very powerful tools. With this battle style, the Rogue does not build defenses, but instead this lone warrior comes equipped with devices that act as mobile traps that deal elemental damage and apply debilitating status effects to all marked enemies during combat. Regardless of the distance between defender and enemy, the Rogue's stealth also comes in handy for those moments when defenders want to surprise their foes, escape danger, or mark enemies from afar. Now, there is the little developer's note here. Of course, this is all a work in progress. Things could change, things will change up in between now and when the Rogue is finally released. Additionally, they wanted this to play differently than any DPS hero ever has in a Dungeon Defenders game. Now, going through, you get a passive ability, which is the Rogue's Mark. Marks are applied to a maximum of 8 enemies while using Swift Assault, Disengage, or any attacks from stealth. The Rogue can then activate debilitating devices on marked enemies. So you're going to have to mark your enemies prior to being able to activate these devices. Device number 1 is going to be some lightning damage. It's called Arcing. It snares the marked enemy with nets of lightning, disabling their attacks and abilities while causing attacks against them to deal additional lightning damage. Device number 2 is the fire. It's called Napalm. It incinerates marked enemies. Dealing a large amount of fire damage over a short time, enemies also take increased damage from other attacks and abilities from the rogue while Napalm is active. And then, of course, the poison is noxious. Injects marked enemies with a highly potent toxin that slows their movement and deals poison damage while noxious is active. So you get a nice little slow and a poison dot tied into device number 3. Now, of course, you're going to have 2 main abilities. First of the main abilities is going to be stealth. The rogue becomes invisible for a short duration. While invisible, the agile hero can mark enemies with primary attacks, secondary attacks, and empowered non-device abilities. The rogue cannot be targeted by enemies while stealth, but can still take damage if you're in that cleave range or explosion range, whatever the case may be. There is a repost buff. Using a non-device ability is going to break your stealth, but it's going to apply a buff to the rogue. So when you're stealth, you want to use device type abilities unless you want to pop out. Now, when you pop out of stealth using a non-device ability, this buff will reduce incoming damage from all sources, and it's going to deal your melee damage back to attacking enemies for a short period. Your second utility is Carnage. This one actually sounds really cool. Now, although on the loading screen we've got that character with the dagger toss, the silhouette of the character looks absolutely nothing like the rogue. However, this looks exactly like that ability, and that is the rogue throws a flurry of deadly piercing daggers, dealing AoE damage every half a second throughout its duration. Defenders can move while this is channeling, and it can be channeled until you're completely out of mana. Now, this sounds just super fun. I'm definitely anxious to try this ability out. AoE damage radius is increased, and it breaks invisibility if you use this from stealth. Now, we already know about the new map that was teased back on the forum post again. We know about the new enemy, the Lycan. Today really was all about the rogue. Now, as always, links to everything will be down in the comments below. What are your thoughts on the rogue? As I mentioned, I kind of wanted another hero with more defenses. However, we'll have to get our hands on the rogue and see what it's capable of. Without having defenses, I would expect the rogue to be able to dish out more damage than any of our builder type heroes can, as it's going to be specialized just for that. The question comes up with the fusion gear. Now, obviously, there would be no reason to equip anything but a fusion weapon on the rogue, so you can get the big boy stats again from a DPS character going with non-fusion gear on the rogue, no doubt. It's hard to really see any benefit from using fusion gear on the rogue in its current state. Now, additionally, with a DPS only hero, that is taking up one of the slots in your hero deck. So what's going to happen there? Is it worth giving up a fusion defense to play the rogue? I mean, we're going to have to see exactly what happens there. Now, a couple of things that were in that last survey that went out. One of them was, what are thoughts on swapping during combat phase? The second was, what are your thoughts on the fusion gear and being locked into just those 4 fusion defenses on your characters? Now, it would be a lot more inviting to play the rogue if we could have a fusion defense without having them in their deck. Will the rogue bring enough power to make it worthwhile to not use a fusion defense and to give up that slot? Now, in a multiplayer or co-op type situation, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. You got a huntress with a cat, you got a monk with a genie, and you got a rogue dishing out the pain and getting buffed by that cat and by the monk. I think in a co-op type situation, the rogue is going to be a beast mode addition to any team, no doubt about it. How about when you are building all the maps solo, or if you're carrying the group and you're handling all of the defenses and the majority of the DPS, is it going to be worth using the rogue in those situations? Those, of course, are questions that we won't be able to answer until this update hits. And that, of course, is going to be the most asked question in the comments, so I'll go ahead and answer it now. We do not have a date on the Episode 1 update for Dungeon Defenders Awakened quite yet. However, there's been a lot revealed. There's been a lot of progress made as far as going through and hyping and teasing all the additions. As far as I know, the only thing left to reveal now would be the feature changes. We know there's going to be some features and mechanics changes to Dungeon Defenders Awakened in this update, and that is the only thing that I personally am aware of that has yet to be revealed. So we got 4 new maps coming, we got 2 new heroes coming. We, without a doubt, will see this rogue hero in action on Friday over on the Chromatic Dev stream. So thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to click that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. All the links are down below. You know this is the place to get all of the information for Dungeon Defenders in all its various forms. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So thanks again, y'all, and I will see ya next time around. Take it easy.